Good morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folari alongside my colleague Cyril Abaku.
My pleasure. Very good morning to you. Good morning.
Indeed. And I guess we quite frankly will be picking up on where we left off yesterday on the program because we dealt with the acting chair of the EFCC yesterday as a conversation, as a subject. We'll continue with that because things haven't got better, if that is the word to use, in terms of the man himself. And we also will be checking out the return to the skies of planes in Nigeria. The domestic travel has resumed. But then there's also something else. There's the Ondo State Assembly bent on impeaching its deputy governor. We'll also be talking about that. But we don't have any time to waste this morning because it's a subject matter that I know quite a number of our viewers will want to come in on. So let's start off then with Sifon Essien's report on the matter.
That actually causing a lot of impediment to...
Ibrahim Magu, the anti-corruption crusader of Nigeria under the EFCC, saw his travails coming.
But we have friends both within and outside the country.
Feelers from the headquarters of the anti-corruption agency indicated that the chairman, as he was fondly called, spent 2 weeks putting up a formal defense against the allegations in the memo the Attorney General and Minister of Justice sent to the President.
They have been apprehended everywhere, investigated, arraigned, and been prosecuted.
But what was shocking to the EFCC acting chairman was the manner he was made to appear before an investigative panel.
Chairman.
Equally shocking was that he spent the night in police custody. And now, Ibrahim Magu may be facing suspension. That's if reports from our sources are anything to go by. Like a cat with 9 lives, he hung on even after the 8th National Assembly refused to confirm his appointment as chairman of the anti-corruption agency.
The EFCC Chairman, the Senate decided not to confirm the chairman and communicate him to Mr. President.
Some of the achievements of the EFCC under Ibrahim Magu include 2,240 convictions and recovered assets of more than 980 billion naira.
Because we don't have...
But all that fell like a pack of cards in the face of the 22 allegations brought against him. Nigerians acknowledge the supremacy of the rule of law, but worry that the Gestapo approach in getting him to face the presidential panel leaves a lot to be desired.
If we're fighting corruption, we must make it public. You cannot fight corruption without the cameras, like the Minister of Labour has said. I also believe that this could turn out well and it could turn out worse.
Raji Ahmed is a senior advocate of Nigeria.
I'll see you when I finish.
He worries that the manner the Ibrahim Magu matter was handled could have grave impact on the anti-corruption drive of the government.
I know Mr. President means well, but he has to handle this very carefully. If the PAC or PAC is talking that way, the Attorney General is writing that way, under the same government, I think it leaves more to be desired. There should be what I would call a harmonizing house, where all these things will have been sorted out before they will come out and be singing discordant tones, and then one saying the cabal, one saying the corruption is fighting back, as if the Attorney General is pro-corruption, while some other people are anti-corruption in the same regime. And I really pity Mr. President.
But how the government would manage the fallout is what Nigerians long to see. Sifon Essien, TVC News, Abuja.
Yeah, but it helps us sort of put everything together, as it were. The gentleman in there was saying that he didn't sort of envy the president. I don't quite understand it. In fact, there's a lot that is quite hazy in this whole matter. What is that business about sympathizing with the president? The president is known to be a man of decision, when he wants to take decisions, he takes them. When he doesn't think it is worth listening to, we carry on and howl and write articles and go on television, and there is no reaction simply because Mr. President is probably thinks that it's not worthy of comment. But so what is the problem here is the question I guess thousands, if not millions, thousands and thousands of Nigerians are asking. What is the difficulty in this matter? The Magu case, what are the allegations? Why are these allegations coming now? Why do we not have clear-cut answers as to what precisely the nature of the allegations are? It's a hazy matter. How legal is it? Because if it's a criminal affair, why isn't it out there in the civil society? Maybe we should ask these questions of people who are better than us when it comes to these kind of matters. And I'm talking about our friend, Mr. Malaki Ugumadu. He's a legal practitioner, indeed, former National President, Committee for the Defense of Human Rights. So as soon as he can, he will join us. So what I'm saying is that we can just talk what we want. As our people say locally, we can talk what we want. But almost.
Almost, yes. Okay.
Yeah. How does it grab you? Because my understanding, and I don't know that anybody has much more than that, because Garba Shehu is not saying anything. That's our usual go-to person. Femi Adesina is not saying anything. That's our other usual go-to person. Minister of Information. In fact, nobody is saying anything.
The only statement that was made available to journalists was yesterday or 2 days ago. I think yesterday, and the early hours of yesterday or 2 days ago, was an unsigned statement allegedly emanating from the presidency, an unsigned statement saying that the president has a position against corruption and that nobody is above the law. And so if there are allegations against anybody, those allegations will be investigated. Anybody can face the law as far as there are credible allegations against the person, which is to suggest that even if Ibrahim Magu was supposedly the arrowhead of government's anti-corruption war, if even he was found wanting, he wouldn't escape justice or he wouldn't escape the law. So that is, we can clear that on the one hand. But I would like to take my intervention from something you said in your introduction. I think that someone has clearly failed to take up the leadership baton. We cannot have a system where people, this is clearly a case of infighting. We can't have interests within a system come to this point of collision where there is already a fall guy, as we like to say, there's a fall guy, but we can clearly hear voices, discordant voices.
No, we must be very careful about our terminology.
Dissonant voices.
I don't think.
No, but well, I apologize.
It's for us
I apologize.
To use the word fall guy.
I apologize.
So you understand?
Yes. And then if
but you see, sorry to have interrupted you. Having made that comment, the fact is that the Minister of Justice and Attorney General, in his memo to the President, accompanied it with 3 suggestions of replacements for Mr. Magu. So, treading your line a bit, it doesn't really allow for alternative outcomes to the fact that this man is gone.
This is the issue. If you hear people on the streets in Abuja will tell you, is he not going to jail? Is he not going to jail? That sort of thing. As if to say that the end of this whole matter has already been predetermined, that there is a certain... So here's the game. The certainty is that somebody is taken out of the picture. But then...
Cyril, I'm so sorry. I apologize to you. I wish you wouldn't use words like game. This is dead serious business. But maybe this is the way people are seeing it. Please continue. After all, you're there. Because why is he before a tribunal?
All of these are questions that are begging for answers.
Malaki Ugumadu will come on soon.
As a matter of fact, I think, yes, one of the groups one of the civil society groups was even saying the other day that, look, there is the right to fair trial. There is a right to fair hearing. He should be given his due. Already, he is facing a panel from detention. That's one. Yesterday, the news we had was that, his house was being searched and that he had moved these things out of his official residence. So these are the issues. We have seen a pattern where people...
And also, would you like to throw in Professor Sage's comment that...
of course.
The prof who spoke earlier was speaking for himself.
So clearly, I would like to look at this whole drama as a political drama.
Okay.
Not purely an administrative or corrective or criminal investigative issue. This is purely political power play. And for us...
Wait. Thank you very much. Let's hand this thing over to a professional. Our friend Malaki Ogumadu, thank you very much for coming on. Malaki is the former national president of the CDHR, Committee for the Defense of Human Rights. Thank you for coming on, Malaki. Maybe let me just jump in with both feet where my brother, where we've been coming along in this whole matter, the legality of this from the perspective of your legal mind. Could you comment on that?
Well, permit me to thank you for the opportunity to come on stream again on this very vexed issue. My only concern is whether I'm seen, because I can see that the Kogi inauguration of the president of the customary court is what is on your screen at the moment. I don't know what's going on. Be that as it may, you are bothered about the legality of what is going on at the moment.
About the legality?
Assure you, yes, I can assure you that it is beyond the question of legality. It has strode into the realm of politics and political wind shots. But I will also enter a caveat to say that it is too early to draw those far-reaching conclusions. We're all interested in this country. We would like to see how it pans out. Now, directly to your question, it is that the president, being the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, has the right under Section 71 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to make certain appointments into various agencies and departments of government, including law enforcement agencies, such as the EFCC. In the same vein, the president has the prerequisite powers. In other words, it is within his remit to also entertain some form of investigation, some form of probe regarding the propriety of the activities of whoever is appointed into those bodies. And I imagine that to that extent, the president has constituted a probe panel headed by no other person than a very respected jurist in this country, a jurist that had discharged himself and acquitted himself as a man of conscience, Honorable Justice Salami, to superintend the affairs of that panel. So, to the extent that there is some investigation going on, yes, you could point at the legality of it, but it goes by far beyond that.
And the fact that the fact that Justice Ayo Salami is heading up the panel, it means a lot, to most discerning Nigerians, along the lines of what you yourself have just said, that is a man who people sort of think of as a man of integrity and would not be involved with anything that was less than prim and proper, and certainly not a gain, to put in quotes, the gain.
So it mainly allays the fears of people who may be scared that not a thorough work will be done. Justice Salami is above that. We've seen him in the history of this country and who he is. But the question I will pose to you is, when did you, as a journalist, as a crack journalist that I know in this country, when did you become aware that there is a panel headed by Justice Salami? When, between the time you became aware that there's a panel and when Mr. Magu was handed and brought before that panel, how much time was it?
Yes.
In short, I, for one, was not aware that there is a panel, even if we had from the grapevines the fact that there have been a lot of concerns and allegations here and there. But the issue in question now is, what is the propriety of the procedure adopted by this government in dealing this very sensitive situation.
Don't
forget.
Yes, yes. Because we were told that Mr. Magu was on his way to an alternative venue, police headquarters reportedly, before he was, I believe the word is intercepted, and he then was, led before this panel. So the question you asked, even Mr. Magu himself was not aware, we could sort of, by deduction, arrive at, of the existence of the panel. Otherwise, he would have been heading there, having been properly informed and properly invited. So he was going somewhere else, he was intercepted, and he was escorted before this panel.
Now, if you draw a nexus, you see there is a tradition, there is a pattern. There is a pattern that characterizes the tenure and career of the leadership of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission since it was, created in 2003.
Yes.
If you juxtapose what you have just said with what happened to Nuhu Ribadu as the pioneer chairman of the EFCC, you would see that there are some relationships. And I would deal with the question of the contradiction of the fight against corruption undertaken by the same government. But let's leave that aside. In the case of Nuhu Ribadu, he was removed from office, brought back to the Nigerian police force, and then moved straight to NIPS in Kuru. He reluctantly underwent that training, that study. On the day of the graduation, he was again adopted. That is the word. In short, his family members, his well-wishers, had been invited to the ceremony, believing that indeed that was what was going to happen. And he was adopted, returned back to the police where he was dismissed. I hope you are listening to me. Now, upon that dismissal, it took a legal action to challenge that malfeasance, if you don't mind. And suddenly, it was again brought up that he never submitted his declaration form, that's asset declaration form. I recall that at the end of the day, when it became a hoax, a funny but very expensive, if you like, very expensive joke, it was found that it was merely a political witch hunt designed to demobilize the pioneer chairman of the EFCC. So his rank was restored. He was also brought back to the commission and properly retired as AIG. So that is not radically different from what happened to Farida Waziri.
Mm-hmm.
In short, in the case of Lamude, who succeeded Farida Waziri, you also saw such very convoluted, high-wired witch hunt. And in my view, if you looked at these four presiding officers of the EFCC, the extent of their suffering is proportionate to the degree of commitment and fight that they actually discharge. So, Mr. Magu, I expect that it is not even, it has just started. There will be much more.
Okay.
In this whole line of aggression.
It's just that you being a lawyer, you being a legal practitioner, you don't need any advice from me. But the word, when you use the word witch hunt, you were doing so advisedly.
Oh, well, I think that we are all Nigerians here. I had once told a judge that we are first Nigerians before we became lawyers and judges.
Okay.
When the roof of this country collapses, we will not remember whether you're a lawyer or you're a journalist. Okay. I wonder how many courts are still operational in Somalia, in Libya now.
Yes.
I wonder. But let me go back to the point that I'm making.
I think there's a question. Cyril wanted to interject?
Yes, so Mr. Malagu, as at yesterday...
Malaki.
Yes, Mr. Malaki. As at yesterday, we learned that the panel had asked him to get his lawyer, to get a lawyer to... So the question now is, assuming that, I mean, this is just hypothetical, assuming that you are representing him or you are to be standing in with him there, what do you think would be the actual ramifications, of what is going on in light of a probable outcome that could see him heading to court?
Well, a lot is also at the realm of speculation. The much we have seen is what the media, is able to push out from the background to the undercurrents.
And the media is not allowed to observe
the allegations.
And the media hasn't been allowed to observe that panel at work.
Very well, very well. That which also casts aspersion, because if you are going to attack transparency, and accountability, you must also come to that kind of equity with a clean hand. Even the circumstance in which he was ambushed leaves much to be desired. But my biggest worry, sir, is that if you look at the fundamental objectives and directive principle of the state policy, I'm talking of Chapter 2 of this Constitution, specifically Section 15, subsection 5, it insists that all forms of corruption, the Nigerian state shall abolish all forms of corruption and abuse of power. That section is somewhat replicated under Section 88 2B, that imposes on the second arm of government, that is the legislature, the responsibility to expose. So the part of why Buhari succeeded and became the president of this country, re-elected, was because of the fact that Nigerians keyed into his avowals to fight corruption.
Exactly yes. Mr. Malaki, sorry for interrupting you. Exactly what I was going to come to now. The moniker, if you like, about fighting corruption has always been on the front burner for this government. And Ibrahim Magu should, if you look at the position of the EFCC in Nigeria's national life, should really be the vehicle for fighting corruption,
like
as it were, yes. So the question now is, when we see this sort of move against the chairman of the EFCC, I would have thought that in times past, under Ribadu, Farida Waziri, Ibrahim Lamode, there was usually this groundswell of public opinion around it. You see CSOs speaking about it, of which you're part of, the CSOs. Why are we not seeing this uproar or, outburst of national feeling against what is going on? Why is there some sort of perceived silence on the part of those of you who are in the CSOs?
Okay. Very briefly, please, Malaki, because we have about 60 seconds left.
I think that they're not very correct. This whole thing started about 2 days ago, gained momentum by yesterday, and by today, I have watched 3 senior advocates in your sister organization, China specifically, from Mr. Falana to Quakers to Biodun Owonikoko, SAA, all critical about what include those whose views in the past were not as amenable to the activities of the EFCC. Very critical. And today I am here. I know what we have done in the past 24 hours, trying to first of all ascertain what is going on, and then to be able to position it. But please, EFCC chairman or acting chairman is not above the law.
Okay.
So by virtue of Section 308, Mr. Magu is not above any investigation. What I am personally quarreling with is that the way and manner in which they have gone about this, just as it happened to the previous EFCC chairman, clearly exposes the fact that the Nigerian government as a state is prepared to fight corruption.
Okay, we've got to leave it there, Malaki. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for your insight into the matter. Thank you very much, as always, for joining us. As Malaki was pointing out, there are, relationships, let me not say similarities, relationships between what has happened now and when he cast his historical mind on what has happened to previous.
A pattern.
Yes, some sort of a pattern. And it's almost as if we're uncomfortable with our professed desire to actually tackle corruption head on. But probably we'll be able to see clearer when we get more clearer communication from those at the center and at the thick of all of this. Well, we were saying earlier that the airspace has opened up. It's something of an abrupt switch, but this is how it is. So Lillian Mark, Lillian Ezemark, not Lillian Mark, Lillian Ezemark, our man.
Aviation correspondent.
Yes, our man for aviation, even though she's a lady, is standing by to tell us how it is going at the Ikeja Airport. Good morning, Lillian.
Good morning, sir. It's really going on well. Everything is going on well. We are outside this domestic terminal 1, and there's a shed that Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria has built to stop passengers from being harassed by rain. And beside it are lanes that they pass through into the terminal. There are markings on the floor, and it is not business as usual. So their temperatures are taken before they get into the terminal and get to the counter of the airline that they want to travel with. This morning, Arike was the first flight for 7 a.m. and the passenger turnout was impressive, even better than I had imagined. And there was orderliness, the processes, the facilitation, everything was orderly at the terminal, because the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria and Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority, they were here to make sure that safety guidelines were complied with. And then inside the aircraft, the airlines have been told that they are going to leave the last row of the airline empty. It will serve as isolation space in case there's a problem. If there's an index case inside the aircraft. And then there will be social distancing. The middle seat is left open, it's left vacant, and then complained that the middle seat, leaving it vacant, is not profitable for a single aisle aircraft. But the authorities, the Nigerian authorities, said they want to observe first and see how it goes, because they are planning for a bailout for the airlines. I heard it's going to be a single-digit interest loan bailout for the airlines.
Okay, Lillian, so a quick one. Did you speak with some of the air travelers to also get their own perspective as to what the impressions are about the latest modifications of how they are going to be able to fly, how they're going to be able to do their check-ins and so on? What is their own impression about what is going on?
Yeah.
For most, the one that I think that you remember is Zach Audrey. He's an actor, a Nollywood actor. He said he's impressed about the procedures, about the facilitation of the passengers, and that he didn't expect that people would be so orderly. And he also did not complain about food, that food will not be served inside the aircraft. He said it's just 1 hour, and most places you go to Nigeria, it's just maximum of 1 hour.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it here, Lillian. Lillian, we're going to have to leave it here, and thank you very much. The rain, I think it's the rain pattering on there. We'll go to a quick break. Don't go anywhere, please. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back from one thing to another. And let's cross over to Ondo State. The Ondo Assembly is, either it has begun or it's about to begin the impeachment process against the deputy governor, Mr. Abuola Ajayi. Actually, things have happened, one thing and another, one thing led to another, and Mr. Ajayi is no more of the ruling party in Edo State. So
Ondo?
In Ondo State. So he's moved on to another party. Now the Assembly there is bent on impeaching him. Well, that's the that's the picture of Mr. Agbola Ajayi there. And, you know, we were trying to find out what exactly is going on. And we have a legal practitioner, Barrister Femi Emodamori. Mr. Emodamori is a legal practitioner, and he's from Ondo State, and he is there. I wonder if you're... Can you hear us, Mr. Emodamori?
I can hear you.
Oh, good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Could you just give us an overview of the state of affairs in the legislature there, vis-a-vis the efforts to impeach him?
Well, like you said, what took place yesterday in the legislative chamber of the State House of Assembly was the commencement of the impeachment proceeding of the Deputy Governor of Ondo State. And the exercise is provided for by Section 188, subsections 1 to 9 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999. The first stage of the procedure that took place yesterday was the presentation of a written notice of allegation of gross misconduct against His Excellency, the Deputy Governor, by some members of the State House of Assembly.
Okay.
By virtue of the provision of the Constitution.
What? Sorry to interrupt you.
Of the members of the...
Sorry to interrupt you, but what is the nature of these gross misconduct? Did they specify?
Well, in the notice that we have been privileged to read, they gave several allegations of gross misconduct, ranging from what they call financial recklessness, defection to another political party, inciting violence, insubordination. But let me say this, Mr. Yori. By virtue of Section 188, subsection 11 of the Constitution, the law is that what amounts to gross misconduct, fortunately or unfortunately, is what the State House of Assembly determines to be gross misconduct. The discretion is given to them to determine what constitutes gross misconduct. And the courts have again and again restated the fact that the law gives the lawmakers the discretion to determine what constitutes gross misconduct. And I remember very well the pronouncement of the Supreme Court in this regard in the case of Attorney General of the Federation against Abubakar, that is His Excellency, the former Vice President. The case is reported in Part 1041 of the Nigerian Weekly Report, that was in 2007, Volume 10 of it. And it starts from page 1, but particularly in pages 125 to 126, the Supreme Court restated that the law is given absolute discretion to the lawmakers to determine what constitutes gross misconduct. But over and over again, the courts have had to interpret, some of the facts, vis-a-vis the law in some specific cases of impeachment. And we now have an idea of at least some of the things that the court have held to be, gross misconduct.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And it seems clear that the relationship between him and his principal, the governor, wasn't at its very best. If it had led to the extent of one, he's leaving the party, and I guess if you can still hear us, we were hearing some commentary that when His Excellency the Governor Akeredolu, when he was ill, the Deputy Governor, had opined that he should have been handed over to, and that wasn't done. And so these are areas that probably made the relationship between them a bit turbulent, and perhaps, if not, untenable. But I just heard a sound which might indicate that perhaps we've lost Mr. Emodamori temporarily. I'm sure we'll get him back. In fact, okay, I hear that you're back now. No? Oh, okay. You weren't supposed to hear that. We're trying to get him back. But quite frankly, we've got the gist. The proceedings were started yesterday, and we need to know how long it's expected to last. And we can't prejudge the assembly and say this is where it's going to end up. But
the one pattern we've seen, one challenge we've seen is that there is hardly any procedurally satisfactory precedent that is created in our political circles. It doesn't happen. You would often find where the minority will impeach the majority and stuff like that. Yesterday, a letter emerged because political situations are often volatile and fluid and still evolving. A letter emerged about 8 or 9 lawmakers saying that they are distancing themselves from the impeachment process, which ostensibly should, or no, which legally should deny the rest of the members the majority that should be required to. But the reality is that sometimes politicians can also be saying one thing in the morning and then say another thing in the night. So all of this is clearly, but the fact is that Mr. Governor and his deputy are out of sorts without a question. And so to even have a deputy governor who is of the PDP and have a governor who is of the APC is also quite frankly a questionable situation. It will only tell you very clearly. Of course, you saw the drama that played out last week or 2 weeks ago when it was alleged that police people had gone to barricade the deputy governor, and that the deputy governor had gone to government house to park his things in the night, and some aides had said, no, you can't park in the night, you have to search for you. You know, all sorts of things.
It became untidy.
Extremely untidy. But
it reminds me a bit about the Saraki-led National Assembly.
Now, the question is this. To be a governor or be a deputy governor is high office. Is extremely high, sensitive office. And so, when power play blows into the open this way, we shouldn't see it as a normal thing.
Okay.
Because the first casualty...
Mr. Modamori is back. He's back on stream. Thank you, Mr. Modamori. So it started yesterday. What is the sort of duration that you expect they will be arriving at a decision?
Well, the duration has been stipulated by the provision of the Constitution. But what you have in the Constitution would appear to be the maximum duration. First and foremost, 1/3 of the members of the State House of Assembly are to give the written allegation of gross misconduct. That had been done yesterday. The deputy governor is expected within 7 days to react to same. 7 days. If he chooses to react, then within 14 days from yesterday, that is within 14 days from the day the notice was presented to the Speaker, there should be another deliberation of the State House of Assembly wherein 2/3 majority of the members are supposed to pass a resolution without any debates to cause the deputy governor to be investigated based on the allegation and or his reactions to same.
Okay.
After that, the Speaker is supposed to, within 7 days, after the second resolution, invite the Chief Judge of the State to set up a 7-man panel of investigators. The 7-man panel of investigators have a maximum duration of 3 months. And see, that is why we have some problems with impeachment in Nigeria. The Constitution gives the panel a maximum of 3 months. And sometimes you just find out that these things are done just in a day too. So, but they have maximum of 3 months. But the fact that the Constitution stipulates a maximum of 3 months does not mean the 3 months must be exhausted if there is nothing else to be done. So, then they return their report to the State House of Assembly. If the report exonerates the holder of the office, that is the end of the impeachment procedure. But if the report finds any of the allegations to have been proven, well, the 2/3 that passed the resolution to cause him to be investigated will have to accept the report again, and he stands automatically impeached. Looking at this procedure, therefore, for instance, if the deputy governor receives the notice today and reacts to same, the House will be entitled to sit tomorrow. And if they can have the 2/3, pass the second resolution. But I think the House must give the deputy governor at least his own 7 days to react. Otherwise, there will be an infraction of his own fundamental right to react.
Okay.
So after that, if they call on the Chief Justice to set up a 7-man panel of investigators, and he does that maybe the following day or second day after that, time will begin. And then if the panel eventually sits and then probably conclude their activities in 1 week after hearing all the sides in the matter as enjoined by Section 188, subsection 6, then it depends on how soon they can turn in their report and what the report says.
All right.
So the time is not accurately predictable.
Well, okay. I want to thank you very much, Mr. Modamori, for explaining the quite frankly a complex process involved, but it's in the interest of justice for all. Stay with us, please. We got a caller, Mazi Okoroafo. Good morning, Mazi.
Good morning, Sayori.
Okay, then.
Sayori, see, the major things Nigeria is having in this country is that, one, there is no eternal democracy in Nigerian politics. Because there is no eternal democracy, see what is happening now. A governor will go on maybe sick, will not hand over. The deputy governor will, in the process, switch over to his own accord. There's one part that he feels that it's his own turn. Now, you ask yourself, all this abracadabra that is going on, they are causing a lot of confusion in Nigerian system. And making the House of Assembly look at the sort of commotion and confusion house. What do you mean by commotion and confusion house? Because by the time you get to that political issue now, what do you have now? There are two factions. One will be for the deputy, one will be for the governor. And you see that there's confusion now. Then the masses have voted them into office now, they will just be served. Nothing will move. Now, at the end of the day, where are we going now? Everything will just crash. The deputy governor, find another political party, the governor, maintain your. Now, the question is this. Who is losing? Is the masses. At the end of the day, what do we have now? Everything is scattered.
Yes.
But the thing is this. Nigeria has to be very careful. Unless the president sign that electoral act, where the president refused to sign, and National Assembly did not move forward to sign it, all this commotion and confusion and abracadabra we see in Nigeria will continue going. And they should not just everybody, myself, not we. That is the issue, because my own.
Yeah. Now,
ask yourself, they have 3 territorial zones. This will say it's their own turn. What does it to prevent other people to allow them, let them share the power? What is it? All this money and power are the major things killing Nigerian politics. At the time we don't take it up, honestly speaking, we are crashing. Because they are not trying to destroy what, because democracy in this country is not moving forward. You ask yourself, this my brother now, research officer now, is sitting down there. At the end of the day, you now come back as other compare and contrast. What do? We have to move forward. Thank you very much. Have a great day in Lagos.
Thank you very much, Mazi. Mr. Maudamori, would you care to react to the point he raised, that is, whether or not this was being distracting to, governance in, Ondo State and,
Well, there is no doubt about the fact that the governor and the deputy governor parting ways politically and party-wise, when in fact they came on board with a joint ticket, is a kind of distraction.
Exactly. Okay.
I wouldn't want to apportion blame.
I understand you. Let me bring in another caller. Sorry, Mr. Maudamori. Let me bring in another caller, Reverend Dominic. Good morning, Dominic. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, Chief Jody. How are you today?
Very well, thank you.
Good morning to your colleagues.
Good morning, sir.
Let's go quickly to the solution. Can you hear me?
Okay, yes, we can hear you.
The solution is electoral, law that could make us go out from this shenanigans. How on earth you enter into an office as a joint ticket with a governor? Now you decamp from another party. You have went to another party to pick a document or what they call it, vibration, or whatever they call it, to contest election in another party. And are still hanging out in that government. It could only be you're playing a spoiler. Knowing that your governor will never agree with you in anything or even release money for you. If it's the same society, this deputy is supposed to resign. Hence, he's not in the same page with his governor. He's somewhere in the party with his governor. And he wants to contest election. It's not simply for you to move on without all this shenanigans. So we have to go back to electoral law and make this thing. If you leave the vehicle that brings you into a house, this vehicle brought you into this house, and you don't want to be in that house which vehicle brought you, you have to walk away and go and try another vehicle, maybe bring you into the same house, if you understand what I'm saying. We have a bad president. We have shot ourselves on the head. There's no way to judge this matter. In Edo, today we have a man who is an APC governor, who was in Edo. He followed up with his party. Now he's a PDP member contesting election PDP. Still an incumbent in the same government. How does it work?
All right. Thank you very much, Dominic. Thank you very much, Dominic. Did you want to?
Yes, I was going to.
Mr. Maudamori is still with us.
Okay. So my question to Mr. Maudamori would be this. What does it take, for the political class in Ondo State to look at this whole scenario playing out and understand that beyond politics, this is about the destiny and the future of the people of the state, and to intervene and to try to make peace among the warring factions. What will it take them to achieve that?
Well, practically, let us be sincere. I doubt if you can call in the political leaders now to broker peace. It will appear things have gone far beyond that level, with the deputy governor having defected to another political party. And I think the last caller captures the position of the law clearly on the matter. Mr. Yori, by virtue of Section 68, subsection 1, paragraph G of the Constitution, a member of the National Assembly having been elected on the platform of a political party who defects to another political party before the expiration of the tenure automatically loses his seat. And you have the same provision replicated in Section 109, subsection 1, paragraph G for members of the State House of Assembly. But we have no similar provision in the Constitution when it comes to the executive arm of government. That is the president, the vice president, the governor, and the deputy governor. And the Supreme Court made this point very clearly in the case of Alhaji Abubakar that I refer to. But what is the implication? The Supreme Court said, look, in spite of the fact that there's no provision for that, defecting to another political party.
Okay. In the meantime, Mr. George, good morning, and thank you for calling in.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you very much for calling. Good morning.
Uncle Yori, I don't know why many people want to eat their cake and still have it. It's a joint ticket, governor and the deputy governor. It's a joint ticket. Now you came in under a joint ticket. Now you want to tear the ticket. The law does not support tearing the ticket. If you jump to another party, you are trying to tear the ticket, and the law does not support that. How does he think he can move away from one party that elected him into that office as a deputy governor and go to another party while his governor is still in the previous party and he wants to remain as a governor? What of the party philosophy? How is governance going to be affected? You should first change the law if you want to do anything like that. I think the man just wants to play the spoiler, like Reverend Domin said.
Yes.
He should not be allowed to do it. And if he has honor within him, he shouldn't wait for that impeachment. Let him just leave and go. Good morning.
Thank you very much for calling in. Well, I will sort of have to leave it there because you've been pointing out, Mr. Madamori, that you don't want to take sides in this whole matter. You're really coming on, for the analysis of the matter and also to give us the facts. And for that, we want to thank you.
He has the constitutional right to freedom of association. He can defect to any political party. But the law expects him to also comply with the attendance, effects of that exercise of fundamental right. That is resignation. And if he does not resign, that is when the law says he could be impeached. But impeachment must follow constitutional processes.
Okay.
That is the fact.
And that's the process. And you've explained to us, thank you very much for that, that it's not...
It's a privilege.
It's quite a convoluted process, all in the interest of justice for all. We're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much to our contributor there, Mr. Femi Madamori, who is a legal practitioner in Ondo State. So that's our program today. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition, and also you can catch the full program at the repeat hours for this program, because the point was made at the top of the program by Mr. Madu that he was seeing another program at the time. But when the repeat time comes, it'll be the full program, including this particular aspect of it. Thank you very much. On behalf of Cyril and myself, please, as we always say, do keep safe in these corona times. Bye-bye for now.